Hi, this is Trace from the Horror Queers podcast. Shudder is the ultimate streaming service for fans of horror, thrillers, and the supernatural. Shudder offers an unbeatable selection from Hollywood favorites and cult classics to original series and critically acclaimed new genre films you won't find anywhere else. Explore the best collection of horror that pushes boundaries, showcases bold, original storytelling, and offers something new to watch every week. Available ad-free and through the platforms you're already on. Shudder. So good, it's scary. Sign up at shudder.com.
Hello, welcome to 101 Part-Time Jobs, the podcast where I speak to artists about how they've managed to survive, how they've made it work for them through making art. I mean, so many of our favourite bands have worked a bunch of different jobs over lockdown, and I think before that, between tours, a lot of them have managed to survive in ways that we don't really know a lot about. So those are the stories I want to get, and I'm so excited to welcome the excellent Rebecca Lucy Taylor, aka Self-Esteem, to 101 Part-Time Jobs. Tomorrow morning I'll be heading off to Green Man and be catching her over the weekend. I can't wait for that. That'll be the first time I'm seeing her, and I hope a lot of you listening to this get the chance to see her next couple of weeks, months, year as well. Her new album Prioritise Please is coming out on the 22nd of October. I Do This All the Time and the title track are absolutely brilliant, and we're all so excited about it. East London's Signature Brew have been making beers with bands since 2011. They've made beers with Mastodon, Sports Team, Hot Chip, and a whole bunch of other amazing bands. If you go onto their website, signaturebrew.co.uk, you can make an order to get some of those beers delivered directly to your door if you live in the UK. And with the voucher code 101podcast, all capital letters, you can get 10% off that order. All right, here's Rebecca Lucy Taylor of Self-Esteem. Go well. Cheers!
When I was in Slow Club, I would do jobs here and there and be really embarrassed about it. But the whole nature of Self-Esteem and being a solo artist and just becoming myself, really, it's kind of part of my art practice in a way, is to so chronically be open and honest about the true me that it means there's no room for, like, I've already done the joke before you have, you know, or
yeah.
So much of my 20s were like deeply shrouded in shame. I'm just exhausted by it. And then it almost like if you put it out there, you're on display, then you've controlled the narrative. Also, I'm a Libra with 2 Pisces moon and rising, and I'm just a complete I'm just so addled with worry and stress about what people think of me that my life was pretty unlivable if I had to like hide that I needed cash or hide that I found things difficult. Like but I will literally look, if you've got a job, I'll do it. Like, I love cash, and now I'm a pop star, but I'm still in the realms of like, you don't make any money. You really have to, like, it's the most stupid creative industry to want to be in terms of logic and like output, input.
I feel like there's like 2 different ways to think of it, because I feel like I could go down the route of asking you questions about how fucked up funding is, or government, or general, you know, support for the arts, you know, especially when you compare the UK to Germany or the Netherlands or Belgium. But and then the other side is like, well, fuck it, you've got to do it, and you kind of put your blinkers on. I
had a bit of a wobble over the pandemic, to be honest, where I was like, okay, everything I've worked really hard for my whole life, like since I was 16, I've made music and I've always just got by, and I've never thrived and I've been very niche, and but always, like, the thing that made it worth it was being able to express myself creatively and have, you know, a handful of people give a shit about what I'm singing about or saying or putting out next. And as a solo artist, the reason I left the band really was because I was like, I can't have that compromised alongside not making any money and alongside this sort of low level dread every day of my life that it's all gonna be over and I'll be stranded, unemployable and like miserable. And so it's all for me. Everything is about taking control and making sure it's my fault if it fucks up and it's my fault if it succeeds. And I don't know, something. The wobble I had was like, maybe it's all gone forever. Because now, like, the best chance I have of making any money would be playing live. And the idea that that's gone, it was just like extremely kind of awful. But then, like, within about a week, it was kind of exhilarating because I thought, well, why do I even do any of it? And I realized it's so deeply not about trying to make money and that it's just my calling. And now I'm completely realized as myself and my art and my point of view is so violently put across in my work that that's the payment. So I had a kind of turnaround where I now don't, all I want to be able to do is to do it. I don't need much more. And anything else is a bonus. I mean, it still means, you know.
Does that play into, because, you know, you got such a brilliant production, great dancers, there's a lot going on. It seems to always be changing. Is that part of it? Speaking about work, that's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, but I realized that, like, that's what I want. But what makes me happy is like getting into bed and being absolutely exhausted and not, when I was in an indie band that with, you know, we toured a lot, but there was a lot of downtime and I felt very stifled and like I couldn't have any other outlet. So I lived all my 20s just sort of waiting to go on tour. When I was on tour, I found that very difficult. The brief moments on stage where I felt really alive and electric and like I'm performing and I'm fulfilling my role on the planet. It was all like too sporadic, whereas now self-esteem is so daft because that's, I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. If there's a stage and there's lights, there's a PA, there's people, like, life when I was a little girl was like dance routines, plays, like always constantly like just making performance, like a rug would be a stage, you know, like anything with a corner was a stage to me. And all I'm doing now is just living that out. And I want to just know I fucking gave it a good go. Also, on the flip side, when you're in a band for 10 years, you see a lot of other bands. I just always thought, God, I find gigs so boring that what I want to do with self-esteem is, because I know full well I'm doing that circuit as we speak. Tomorrow I'm on, you know, early in the afternoon at a festival, and you have to make people look and listen and give them an experience. And I think, you know, a lot of indie music's pretty lazy, like in terms of the transaction between audience and performer.
And that's like a quote that really stuck out for me when you said, you know, for photos, why wouldn't you just make it the silliest, most bombastic thing you could? Why would you just stand against a brick wall?
I have a visual cue with this, which is difficult, but it's like, you know, standing by a wall with graffiti with your coat on is something we can all do. And even though I want to do all these mad things, like I can put my coat on and stand by a wall. And that was where I went wrong, was that I was constantly compromised to just do the thing that is comfortable and easy for everybody. Whereas art, to me, shouldn't be that comfortable and it shouldn't be easy. And I'm just very, very tired of it. But also, my God, you could argue the absolute opposite. Like, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But it's like, I realized that I was looking around all the time, what everyone else was doing. And I don't know, something about aging. It's just like, it don't matter. Everything has a right to exist. Commit to it. Have your context and your through line all the time. And be an artist. You know what I mean? It's not just about looking cool, playing your instrument all right and shuffling on and off. And I don't know, I think the idea of rock and roll star is just pathetic. think there's nothing, it's not cool. Cool is being real. In my opinion.
Caveat. I mean, do you ever get used to sometimes second guessing yourself? Do you ever come to peace with that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like obviously a lot better than I used to, but it's still, I keep getting I got a load of clothes today actually for my shows, because I was like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. We need to dress me. I look like I'm coming from the office at the minute.
I saw the Kermit frog.
Oh yeah, he's a part of it. That's a little it's a photo shoot I'm going to do coming up. But and I'm there today putting on this leopard print daft suit and a mad bra, and like, yeah, I doubt it. And I go, I'm 34. What the hell am I doing? Everyone else has got married and had babies, and this is my life. But oh my God, it doesn't last long. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, but this is very you. just get on with it. It's all too short. The planet is dying. It's just about having a laugh and feeling like seizing the fucking day. I'm just done. I'm done trying to be cool. I just want to have a right laugh. You can blame the drag queens. The drag queens infiltrated my brain, and I never look back.
I mean, do you think that's the thing of the last decade, or that there has become that ability to be so versatile and not just be one idea and constantly, progress in a way that, I mean, because, Bowie was doing this kinds of stuff.
And
it feels like no one else was doing it around that time. Maybe people were, but do you know what I mean? I wonder if that is something that's coming more back into play in music and art.
I think something happened maybe like 2007 or something, where I think there was Beyonce singles were suddenly like all right to openly like. Right? I remember Single Ladies coming in a club and indie. I had an indie boyfriend and he played it at his indie stupid club night, and I was like, that was a real turning point, because everything I'd sort of committed to all the way through high school, being like the premier girl that liked music, would never have, but I was listening to Destiny's Child at home. Like something shifted, and I just think everything blurred. I don't know what the world moved, the internet maybe grew or something, where, pop became the most exciting genre really. And like, I don't know, guitar music it's never floated my boat really. I've lied every time apart from the Arctic Monkeys, who are my favorite band in the whole world, but they make like mad pop music in my opinion. Anyway,
yeah.
What am I getting at? What did you ask me?
I've forgotten. I guess. I mean, by the way, I don't really have questions. I go on the chat. That's my vibe. That's what I try. Yeah, sometimes it goes well. So, just that, I guess that element of, well, you say 2007, right? That I feel like that was when a lot of electronic bands started playing Reading and Leeds, and there was this kind of crossover.
Yeah.
And then I think Arctic Monkeys was almost that first record was one of the last records of that brilliant generation where every Wednesday you'd pick up the magazines, and and Kerrang would have great stuff, and NME would have great stuff, and for me, there was just always at some point it stopped being like rock music stopped being exciting.
I don't know what happened, but it really did. It's like nothing. That red Libertines jacket, to me, at one point in my life, nothing was more sexually arousing than someone wearing one of those. And now I can't think of anything more repugnant. And I don't know when that happened, but it did. And as a whole of the podcast, I guess, when did indie die? But there's something to do. I think the influx of women is one thing, and like just the world moving and changing and technology, and I don't know.
For you, that sense of identity growing up playing gigs, do you remember when has your identity kind of always in playing music, I mean, and when I say identity, I mean like confidence, I mean the number of hours you're spending doing it, like the kind of the way you talk about it with friends and family. When my band was touring all the time, I couldn't even take myself seriously when I spoke to people. I just didn't have that confidence inside of me. And I wonder how people do that.
Yeah, I still struggle now. Like It's weird. Like I've had a tiny bit more like reach than normal with my last couple of singles, and it makes life a little bit easier in the sense of like, oh, I do this, and I've done, there's your headline, like I did Jules Holland, and I've like always dreamed of doing that, and it's more like they're doing it, so I can say I've done it. It's more the dream than actually being on it. Like it was just like the shorthand I need for people that don't understand that I'm a full-time musician, relatively successful in the realms of what I'm in. Like getting your hair cut, I'm always like, don't ask me what I do, because it's so, all I will do then is just go down this long road of, the self-deprecation that comes out my mouth that I don't even mean. And it added, certainly all the way through my 20s, my self-esteem, for want of a better phrase, it was like rock bottom, because I was just always, I felt fucking stupid about this thing I'd devoted my life to. Whereas now, not because I've been any more successful, but just like, because it's all so all-consuming, and it's bigger than music, in my opinion, like what I'm trying to achieve, and like, it is a job now. Do you know what I mean? And I've just got less shame about it. I still do struggle with it though, because it's like, unless you're really famous, who are you to like the vast majority of people? But now, it's never really been about fame for me. It's more about getting to do it. Like I have so many things I want to make, and now I feel successful because I probably will be able to make them. And so I'm just sort of more happy in myself that I can just go, oh, I do this thing and it's this. Also, obviously, it's very helpful when people are like, oh my God, I love that. And I'm like, brilliant, cool, validation, seen.
Yeah.
But it is like art, music, theatre. There's all these subcultures and all these kind of levels. And it's kind of shit that only the ones that are on like Sunday brunch are the ones that get taken seriously. I've brunched a few times, so who am I to say? But yeah, I'm going for the triple this time. I'll be on it 3 times. I love it.
I want to live in a culture. I want to live in a town or a place where people are putting on shows, whether that's a gig or a theatre production or a choir. I want to live somewhere where the arts are taken seriously at every level. And it is fucking annoying that the fact that you can talk that you said you've done it is more valid than doing what you were doing before. But that's not the case. It's bullshit.
Yeah, but that's been what it is. My school, I have a sort of an aversion really to seeing people from school, even though I like love them. Like I was, the main part in the plays, and I sang all the in choirs, and I was, there was me and a few other people that, someone got into drama school, and she's going to go and be this thing, and then I did. I've been a full-time musician since I left school. I would say that's an achievement, but because I'm not famous, I think I just struggle to explain that, and so I've just been bad, and I don't text people back. But I shouldn't be like that. Everything's valid, but I've struggled my whole life between like, why are you doing it then? Like what? There's no financial gain. There's no security. What do you get? But like I've said a million times already on this podcast alone, it's like, it's just my lot. That's me. This is what I'm doing, and that's the end of it, really.
A big part of it's got to be to do with like the people you surround yourself with. If you have friends into the same thing who are like spurring you on, being like, yes, Rebecca, that's fucking awesome, or like having a manager who gets it, and a booking agent. I mean, I'm just thinking, bands with teams. I mean, you hear, you sometimes forget that musicians and artists just have completely different experiences with the people they're working with.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's really changed things for me. I don't think I would still be doing music if I was still in the situation I used to be in. Like, touring was very much like, just get yourselves around the country. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I did it as the only woman in the band. Like, the anxiety of just the traveling was just wild. But it always, good amount of like, shut up and get on with it. But now my manager really gives a shit how I am. Doesn't want me to be ill. If I don't want to do it, we don't do it. It's just like tiny things. But I think in the music industry, even in the last 4 years, it's now become a better place, certainly for women, because of just all the things in the zeitgeist where it's like, you do need to be listened to. There's a documentary about Slow Club, and like it's just me moaning that I'm not very well all the time and I'm really sad. And even that already is 3 years later, it's like dating in this really strange way where it's like I can't imagine me being in that situation anymore, because it feels like the general well-being of the people is more in the social consciousness. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, every day I'm further away from it. I go, oh God, I have no idea how you didn't lose it sooner. But this is just how it goes, and it's why I'm who I am today and all the rest of it. And I did, I had some amazing times and very, very unique life. But the terror of not making any money, I don't think makes like the best art. But unless you're from, some a background with tons of cash and it doesn't matter, it's kind of difficult to get that equilibrium. So, that's why, loads of the massive UK bands are from loads of cash. Anyway, like there's a certain, and same with art, same with theatre, like it's dominated by because I think good art comes from not coming from a desperation angle. Which I'm perhaps
some people would disagree though, right? Some people would say that like some brilliant songs are from really, really tough times. Yeah.
There's such an argument for everything. And it is all just down to the individual. But I don't know, like it's not like I'm suddenly financially fine, but taking the fear out of it needing to work has made my work connect better. Like this and my forthcoming album, so like I was just so, okay, fuck it, let's just make what I want to make, like genuinely, because I've got my little life that I can just about keep going on what I make. And I there's some sort of peace in me artistically from not being like, why not me? When's it my turn, universe? Like I used to be so jealous, and desperate is the best word for it. Now I don't give a shit. And everyone's like, oh, we come on this podcast. We come on this Jules Holland show. I'm like, oh, right, yeah, fucking hell, fine, yeah. Well, now.
Did that happen? Did that feeling of like, did that evolve during like Compliments Please? Did it happen before, after?
No, Compliments Please, I was pretty rabidly desperate too. But it was more like, I think over Compliments Please, the touring of that, I realised I don't hate touring. I hated touring in the way I used to be touring. And like the performances are amazing. The fans of Self-Esteem are like, as somebody who's felt very much on the outside the whole life and kind of like struggled with group, not feeling part of a gang. And I've never had a big group of friends or anything like that. Like, oh, that's always registered. I've never had like a steady relationship. All these things have always just made me feel worse and worse and worse. And now when I play a Self-Esteem show, I kind of feel like part of just this enormous gang of freaks. And there's so much love, and everyone is so fucking funny as well. That's what I've noticed. People make me laugh, and it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And people, I don't know, it's like whatever I give people, they're giving me back too. It's just the greatest joy of my life has been doing Self-Esteem and seeing what it does with other people. Building this band, which are all these sort of women. We allow a couple of men. They go through a very strict vetting process. And then the shows, it's just this like absolute circle jerk of like love. And I just fucking love it. I don't know what the question is, and now I'm just going on about myself.
No, but please. I mean, it makes me think that, I think people early on, when you go to your first ska gig or you go to your first metal gig, it's like, wow, I fit in here. I feel like I fit in here.
Yeah.
Is it that sort of feeling?
I hope so. And I what I can gather from what I see, people in comments and things like that, there is like a little bit of a tribe happening.
Totally.
And I mean, to psychoanalyze in a very quick way, like all of this is just to, I guess my output is just to feel not alone. And I guess I've always just felt extremely alone. And like, well, I guess we all have this internal monologue that you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Or you're not normal or whatever. And just being open and honest about that and seeing how many other people feel that way and connecting. There's just something so magic about it. And even if it all ended tomorrow and I did have to go back to being a really bad PA, at least I proved it, you know what I mean? Like I found it. It's not, I will never feel totally alone again, which is, you know. I'm not saying you have to have like an experimental pop project to not feel alone, but that's what I had to do anyway.
A big part of that, I wonder, is to do with socials and speaking to people, you know, like messaging people, because, you know, we basically like text on Instagram, don't we now?
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you want to. And have you been quite good at like getting to grips with that being such a big part of what you do and your life?
Yeah, I think it just naturally was. I remember getting a Twitter when I was in Slow Club, and it sort of like, I was Slow Club Rebecca, and that was my first tiny bit of solo activity, really. And I used to worry about it, how mad that is. But I used to. No one was making me worry. It was just all from me and my chronic people pleasing. But yeah, and it's a long time ago, and I used to go out with this lad who was also in a band, and he had a Twitter, and he was really funny on Twitter, and he was just like, no, interact with people, like, and I used to think, I need to remain aloof or something, and he encouraged me to just be like, not do that, and I never felt right doing that, because I certainly don't want anyone to think I think I'm untouchable or something, because I'm so not. I'm like, literally, please touch me. So yeah, it's been a long time now of interacting, and I don't know. It's just like I said, it can be just such a laugh. Sometimes it's absolutely gross because obviously I get some bizarre attention, but I just shut that down pretty quick. And for the most part, it's like I've just got like thousands of mates, which is so nice. I sound like such a fucking loser.
No, not at all, because it is like, I mean, you know, think about all the people, especially in the last 18 months, who've made best friends online. I mean, it's almost like a few years ago, I feel like a lot of people would cringe at that. But now I say, fuck it, like, brilliant. People making friends online, that's ace.
Yeah. I mean, being a human is so bizarre. Like, it's hard enough. We're up against it, you know, in many ways.
Totally.
So I know I'm not doing great when I'm pretending or putting something on, or, you know, I did so many years of pretending and doing an act and trying to be something I thought would be either attractive or cool. And now I just don't, and it's bliss. I just can't recommend it enough.
Thinking about like that kind of like government and also kind of social view of people playing art. I mean, do you think much about that? Does it kind of upset you the way that Britain is like that? It's not really like, yeah, go ahead and do that. It's always like people being like, oh, you're doing that, are you? Okay, good luck.
Even when I remember when I was at school in the 80s, like in the 90s or whatever, like, you know, we did the careers thing, and mine came back as actress, and they were like, you're going to have to do it again. It's like, they've never been taken seriously. This isn't new. Like, Tories definitely haven't helped matters, but like at school, I did art, music, theatre, like I did all of them, and people, you know, you get laughed at. I mean, but it's such a, to me, being alive is pointless without these things. It's the joy of life is art, if you could call that as a canvas term. And like,
of course, yeah.
And the pandemic even showed that, like, you know, the only joy people were finding were in, you know, online festivals and all that sort of thing. And like, I can't think about it too much because it gets very sort of sad. And I suppose, like, if I had a kid, I would hope they don't want to make art because it is so stacked against you. I think governmentally they're like, well, we've got our Lewis Capaldi and we've got our Mumford & Sons, so we're fine. We're doing fine. And there will always be artists that will be huge globally. But I think if you take away those sort of more underground things or more grassroots things, or people at like my level to say, like, you get a very diluted, one-dimensional scene. And I don't know, when the world's burning, I suppose it doesn't matter anymore, but I think it does. So I will always keep trying. I don't know.
I feel like not having Top of the Pops or something that is like, okay, you go on that program and you sell a bunch of records, and it's not the be all and end all, but it's certainly a push.
You have to get on the cooking channel. That's where we're at now with it. I don't know. I've pitched and been in conversations about, you know, trying to pitch a new music show, and it's just there isn't any hunger for it. But I also think that's because everybody consumes in their own personal way on the internet. So
how do you mean about the pitching the new music show?
I just mean, like, I've suggested, you know, I'm always trying to get a side hustle. So I'm like, oh, what if we did a thing where it was like this? And then, you know, people just don't want music. And but you know, even when I've done things that are going on the telly, I'm like, oh, it's on at this time. And it feels kind of ludicrous to expect anyone to like tune in to a telly at the time it's on, apart from like if it's football. So it's just the world has moved and the way people consume has changed. And I suppose, you know, there are things in music that have kept up with that. But yeah, in terms of having a worth in from the opinion of the government, I don't know how you change that. I don't think you do. I don't think they listen to music. I think they just listen to white noise.
I think when you mentioned grassroots, I think there are like quite a lot of, I mean, I feel like you have this, despite having this, you know, pop star aesthetic and dressing up in all these different and having these brilliant videos and having this amazing production, there is still that grassroots element. And I'm not talking about just because of knowing what you did before that, but I feel like there is that kind of connection. And I think that's so empowering.
Yeah, I hope so. I just think it's being realistic is like our last great kind of tool to connect. I think just being real.
Yeah,
it's like shocking how much we don't do it, and it's a combination of me being old and tired, and like so many things have happened to me that I just don't give a fuck anymore, and I'm just cracking on. I actually don't overthink it these days. I just do it. And then when people go, oh, thank you so much for this music, it's helped me so much, I think, oh, cool, nice. It helps me. So
great.
Cool.
I mean, I was just about to ask you if it overwhelms you, you know, the looking towards the future, but now I don't want to ask that. I don't want to.
No, I know it's a good, I can feel it. I keep getting these twinges of like the old me goes like, oh, but what if this doesn't get on the playlist? You know, I've tasted it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I love it, but the only reason I love it, you know, I love all free clobber and stuff like that. I love having my hair and makeup done. I love being able to say I'm not going to make it that day. Can I make it this day? And no one pushes back on me. All that's great, but it's still so surface. Like all I want is to be able to have an idea, create it, and have somebody consume it. And everything that happens for me in a success sense just keeps that fire burning, you know, so that's why I think that's what really, really, really excites me. And also my absolute obsession with having a laugh every day. Like it isn't, you know, I'm not under no illusion that like what I do for a living is really fun, but it can be I've started to notice just I get very, very exhausted. Like I've done quite a few podcasts today, and tomorrow I'm like, please let me be mute all day. Like but I'm learning that about myself too now. Like survive it and say what you need. Because I used to be very like, because it wasn't only me I was representing. I used to be like, no, yeah, okay, come on then, and you know, it wasn't healthy.
Was it? Yeah, with two singles being like released from Prioritise Pleasure. They both sound quite different. I Do This All the Time in the title track. Mm-hmm. Is that what? Can you say anything about the full record as a whole? Does it go towards one of those sounds more than the other?
Well, it's not a spoken word record, which is, I'm sure, is devastating for everyone. I kept the spoken word to just the one song. No, I think they sonically make a lot of sense, but I guess, yeah, they don't. Yeah, it's another sort of big beastie, sort of meaty record. I wanted to make Compliments Please too, essentially. So turning, if there's strings, there's more strings. If there was singing, there's choir. Like I just wanted to make it more widescreen, and I think so desperate to represent myself on the first album that there was a lot going on. Whereas this one, I played live a lot. I know what works live. I think even in Slow Club, I used to write songs with thinking about the live show. I've never written songs without thinking how they get performed. And so I suppose it makes it, I think you put Prioritise Pleasure on and you feel quite exhausted after it. but that's the kind of music I want to make. Like I don't want to make dinner party music. And not to say I won't soon. I'd love to. It'd be lovely to think, I'm just gonna make a really downbeat 10 track,
I mean, that's the point. Have you got to that point where you got to think about what you say in terms of, not making making promises or not, or being aware that people might pick up these lines and shout about them from their news platform?
What do you mean?
Like, if you said,
oh yeah,
I know.
no.
I mean, it's not like a huge thing, but saying, I'll never make a dinner time record. But I mean, have you got especially with socials? I mean, you can say something and it might be in the wrong context. Anyone could do that.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for my Ollie Murs tweets to surface and my career to be swiftly over. Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's that bothered what I'm up to, and I'm pretty open about it. Like I think I've got a pretty good idea of, a 5 record sort of plan for this. And then I would do something under just my name, I think is my idea, but who knows? And like the Bowie reference earlier, like I also want to, like Peter Gabriel,
yeah.
which is also just such a big part of my childhood, was watching Peter Gabriel tour footage. You'll have to talk to my dad about that one. But
Brilliant.
Just that idea that's occurred to me over the pandemic as well. It's like, I always wanted a hit and I wanted it to all happen. Whereas now what might be possible for me is 20 albums, and they all inhabit different sort of aesthetics, and I can go down a certain road or a genre or really indulge in one type of thing I like to do. And it's more about longevity and like a really big, and Kate Bush as well, just like an enormous back catalogue. And for it not to be, I mean, as a woman, aging is just so complicated, and I refuse to let that ever stop me.
I mean, looking at Fiona Apple, Fetch the Bolt Cutters, incredible record.
Exactly. And then when I think about her, I think, well, she didn't do anything for ages. She's like, you can't, it's not a production line, like
yeah.
I think the things I adored and that, I used to be like, I wish I was Rita Ora or whatever. I'm like really realizing that that's not what I'm doing at all. And I can borrow from the tropes and the things that pop has like that, but just settling into what it is I'm doing and not being embarrassed or shy about it or scared that I'm being a diva or demanding, and just setting my stall out, creating, making it happen professionally. That's all I want to do. I want to go and go, without, I refuse to be stopped by any expectations of me as a woman in the world.
Fuck yeah, ace. I mean, it's such a thing to look towards, almost no matter who you are. I feel like we're all living on this clock or some shit, and it's nice to have a North Star, or have a few North Stars. Do you know what I mean? To look towards. Yeah,
I think I've always been a musician my whole life. By the way, I have had jobs. I've had loads of. Yeah, I pretty much. I have, like, that's why I've made the bulk of my ends meet. But always with this terror and this very real sense of this can all be over, and then, oh my God, what will I do? I've got this obsession with, like, who would take me in? Right. And like it feeds into my relationships. Like I would be in relationships and because I was so desperate for some security, but realizing nothing gives you security. You could get married and have a ton of children in a house, and all those things can go wrong. Like nothing is certain. The only thing that's certain is you. So like, I don't know, letting go of that desperate need for it to last forever and being realistic and just committing to the work has changed my life. So I don't know if that's good advice.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that you were a PA, and this is 101 part-time jobs after all. Just to end with, and by the way, you know, thanks so much. I mean, it's 40 minutes already. It's gone like a flash, but thanks.
Oh, it's lovely.
Thanks so much for giving me your time, because you literally, you know, you say playing a festival tomorrow. I feel like you've played a few festivals this week already.
Yeah, I'm the COVID dropout queen. Yeah.
I mean, it's time.
COVID, I'll come and play your gig.
Time to do it, right?
Yeah, man, I'm sweeping the floor. I'll take legs there when they were.
But I mean, speaking of jobs that you worked, I mean, you said, you know, you've been playing music, full time since you left school. But I mean, throughout those years, are there any funny, horrible, brilliant, excellent, awful job stories that you've had?
I mean, so I was a phlebotomist for a while.
What is a phlebotomist?
Well, do you know what? If there's another big variant and we're locked down for another 2 years, I'm going to go back to the phlebotomy. I'm serious. So it's taking blood when you get your bloods taken,
right?
A GP or whatever. I babysat for these GPs, and then when I left school and I wasn't full time doing the band yet, I needed a job, and they were like, "Oh, come and be our phlebotomist." And it's like, you know, I was 19, sticking needles in people, being like, "This is fine," and it was fine. I was really weirdly good at it, and I really enjoyed it.
Phlebotomy is like a funny name for something so, no pun intended, you know, sterile and straightforward.
Yeah. It's nice. I've always, you know, it's a good date chat. I think it makes me sound more competent and secure.
It sounds to me like a cross between like Fleming and lobotomy.
I could go in and get a gig as a phlebotomist again, and I'm not ruling it out. Yeah, I was a PA. I thought I was getting cast on a TV show, but he wanted a PA. So I was like, well, no, I can't do that. And then I saw what I got paid a week, and I'd never seen anything like it. So I said yeah, and I really wasn't very good at it at all. Could
you expand? The finding about the job and going for the interview and thinking.
Well, there's the director of this TV show, and he took me for lunch, and I was like, all right, here we go. I'm getting cast as, you know, finally, because I've always had this idea that I'm some sort of undiscovered diamond in the rough actress.
Well, you could be.
I know. I know. I'm not ruling it out yet, but yeah, I thought it was going to be a part in the show, and that he said he wanted a PA and that I'd be really good at it, and I was like, ugh, no, I wouldn't. And then, yeah, like I said, money-wise, I was like, okay, I'm going to see if I can. And I tried to, like, it was difficult, though, because I had a load of slow club obligations. I was like, yeah, but I've never earned money in my life. Like, let me do this. But I wasn't very good at it. Like, I start every job out with the same attitude, which is like, maybe this is me. Maybe I'm this. And I'm, you know, I dress for the job and I really get into it, and I'm very fucking friendly for about 3 weeks. And then I just slowly just hate it. And it happens every time I've had a job. I waitressed a couple of years ago. My friend had a vegan cafe, and I thought maybe this me. I'm you know, cafe girl. That'd be nice. And I cosplayed as like someone sweet who works in a vegan cafe. Yeah, and slowly hated that. I didn't hate it. It was great, but I'm just not cut out for it. Wait, I've had one more job. What? Oh, I had another. So I thought I was getting. So I've written a few scripts and things, and trying to make a theatre show. And
Ace.
I got a meeting with a creative director of a theatre in London, and thought, oh, they're going to ask me to, you know, if I want to put my show on. Yeah. And he asked me if I wanted to be in the panto. So then I did a panto job where I was a fairy. But that actually did end up being like one of the most hilarious times of my life. And it was the sort of the end of the band and the start of Self-Esteem. So I was the oldest person in the cast, and I had all these like hot 19-year-old dancer friends, and I was giving them advice about how to text boys back. I actually loved it. I was like proper mother goose.
What was that production sort of for a couple of months? I mean, how long? What was that routine like?
Like 3 months, Oxford Playhouse. I took it very seriously, actually, and I loved it. And I've always dreamed of being in musicals and things like that. So it was like a nice little like pretend version of that, I guess. It's a proper job, you know. It was cool that they asked me, but I didn't realize.
Well, I think it's funny because we, you know, quite a lot we like laughed about these things and laugh about things that anyone does. But actually, like, why not? That's it's legitimate things to be excited to be serious about, isn't it?
It was very cool. I got offered it, and I was like, you know, I say yes to these things with the absolute, like, you know, I'm gracious about it. I'm thankful. I don't think I'm above anything at all. I don't even think I'm above some of the shit I do that's terrible within my band. Like, I'll play an envelope opening, you know. I don't if you pay me. I'm a workaholic. It's fine. And I also just don't think anyone's above anyone, you know what I mean? Like, everything is valid. But you know, there's some times where I've thought, oh God, you know, what have I done? But I've just cultivated like such a deep ability to laugh at myself that I can get through anything. But I had something else to add and it's gone. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Like, I will say when I have had jobs, there's something about the sort of mundanity and the boredom, maybe when I've had boring jobs, that cultivate, you know, I wrote a lot of songs. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some, like, there's escapism of music. Sometimes when you have, you know, some artists make the most incredible first records and then they have loads of cash and don't have to do anything, and then they spend 3 years trying to make something good again, because it's like real life that makes you a good artist. So luckily for me, I've always not been quite successful enough to retain my very grounded attitude to life, and therefore plenty of shit happens to me I can write about. But I think it's great that this podcast exists. Like, the stigma of having a job while you're a creative it's got to go, because it's fucking pathetic.
The fact is, like, we're all fans, right? So why wouldn't we create our own culture where we're like, no, that is important.
Yeah. And what is it? What's being alive? What do you want? Do you know what I mean? Like, really, it depends on what you want. If what makes, like, if you really ask yourself, is being decked out in like thousands of pounds worth of designer things and getting what you want when you want it, is that what's important to you? Like, fine, try and do that. But I mean, I like stuff, but not that much. Life's very varied, and like, if you're lucky, it's quite fucking long and loads of stuff happens. So you can't, you know, there's something I've learned that's really helped my mental health is like, there isn't some like great big goal that you get to and then everything's all right. Like, you've got to go with the highs and the lows, and just remain kind of steady and wait for it to get good again. Like, so no matter, you know.
Try and live in the moment. I mean, you mentioned that.
Oh my god, it's so hard though. I'm like, be here, be in the moment. Like, I'm so violent with my brain. Like, come on, which I think is maybe isn't quite what mindfulness is about. But yeah, that's the only way I make it happen.
Well, mindfulness, either being quiet at home or being really fucking loud. I think there is a connection there.
Yeah, it's such a fucking life hack though to go. I mean, so much of my life is worrying about what's next. Have I done this? Have I done that? And the way, if the sort of, it comes in tiny, tiny waves for me of like, oh wait, I'm in the moment and there's nothing I can do about that right now. So just be grateful that you're here right now. And then I'm like, and it's gone, and I'm thinking about something else again. But I'm like, the clarity that it comes sometimes is so sort of fucking
fleeting.
Sucked it into me, yeah. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope you have a bunch of those moments this summer. There's so much cool shit going on for you. It's so cool to watch. It's so exciting. And I think you got that really special thing of your fans being as excited about it as, you know, we might think that you are.
Yeah. Good.
That's a really special thing. That's like a rare, it's like a rare thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, yeah, thank you.
So there was Rebecca Lucy Taylor. Thank you so much for tuning in to 101 Part-Time Jobs. Off to Green Man this weekend. Maybe I'll see some of you there. See you next week. Here's Sparrer.
I've been working all day for me mate on the side, running around like a blue-ass fly. I've been working all day for me mate. Every
This is a Mighty Moon Media podcast.
Hello, this is John Grills from Creepy. Want to see something scary? Shudder is the ultimate streaming service for fans of horror, thrillers, and the supernatural. Brought to you by AMC Networks. Shudder is a premium streaming service that promises its members a multi-sensory dive into fantastical worlds. All uncut and commercial-free. Discover films and series that cover the entire horror spectrum, including highly anticipated new releases like The Boy Behind the Door, and one of my new favorite movies, Psycho Gorman. Available ad-free, on demand, and through the platforms you're already on. Shudder. So good, it's scary. Sign up at shudder.com. That's SHUDDER.